Turn it up.
Hey, welcome back into the game here in Tuscaloosa on Tide 102.9 and 100.9, LandryFootball.com. I was down in Lee County when Auburn beat Alabama, and I began to think about some guests that I was looking forward to featuring. This was one of those that I just wanted to hear what Chris Landry and the way that he breaks down the Iron Bowl. I cannot wait to hear his analysis. If you want to join NFL and college programs by joining LandryFootball.com, right now the coaching carousel seems like everybody on Twitter, everybody everywhere is turned down Tennessee. A lot of coaching searches. If you want the latest information, you want that inside scoop, lots of free information along with that membership packages, go to LandryFootball.com. For less than a magazine subscription, you get that same access that NFL college football style scouting department. Chris Landry, welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa. I hope you're doing well, sir.
I'm doing well, Ryan. Hope everything is going well.
It is. It's been a struggle here, but I cannot wait to hear, in your opinion, what went wrong down in Lee County for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well, listen, a lot went right for Auburn. They were more physical than Alabama. They really controlled this game at the line of scrimmage, and that was the biggest difference. And we start on either side of the ball. Defensively for Auburn, they just got a tremendous amount of pressure, base pressure. And listen, Jalen Hurts didn't play well, but a lot of it is he didn't have time to set and throw. And when you break down the tape, the guys were not yet open enough for him to pull the trigger in most cases before the pressure was in his face. They really, really struggled controlling and getting any semblance of movement at the line of scrimmage. That line of scrimmage was moved on that side of the ball. And on the other side of the ball, they did a good job of blocking Alabama up front. And they were able to sustain and get movement on their blocks and get the running game going. That's what you have to do against Auburn. You have to stop the running game somehow, some way. And we've seen Auburn for 2 weeks in a row, 2 weeks in two separate games against Georgia and Alabama, completely dominate the line of scrimmage. I do think that some of the issues of Alabama's health certainly hurt. It certainly hurt their run fits and their ability to contain the run game. And listen, it wasn't really a mystery when you broke down the tape. It was a complete control of the game at the line of scrimmage, and it was one of those that if they lined up and played again this week in the current circumstances, they'd do it again. I mean, they're right now just that much better in the current state. Now, fully healthy, we can debate that, but right now this is where we are. I think that people, and I mentioned this weeks ago, at least to me, what jumped out all year long is this Auburn team looked like one of the top 5 teams on film all year long. Now, there are some exceptions to that. Second half against LSU, brain freeze. We know the problems and protections against Clemson, and even, but once they got by the Mercer, Missouri, and starting to get the running game going and the offense going, I'm going to tell you, the line of scrimmage, this Auburn team is that good. And I think if you're not at full go, you're going to have trouble. Now, I thought that Alabama made some adjustments at halftime. Boy, offensively, they came out, got the lead, took control of it, and you thought, okay, they're ready, they're coming. And then it just, Auburn gets the ball, and the defense, they're just catching blocks. They can't get off blocks. Their run fits are misaligned. And then you start to see Alabama get rattled offensively. I mean, they just, what they were trying to do and the mistakes, and it just became chaotic and very pressurized where they didn't handle it very well. So as much as maybe this audience doesn't like to hear it, it's more about what Auburn did than what Alabama didn't do, because they forced a lot of those mistakes onto Alabama. Not all of them, but most of them.
Chris, there's been a lot of talk, and I'm looking at it by no means the eye that you're able to take it and break it down. Does Alabama know what they want to be on the offensive side of the football yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they know what they want to be, but, you can't really do anything if you lose the line of scrimmage. And first and foremost, you have to win the line of scrimmage. Whether you want to run the football, whether you want to throw it, you've got to control the line of scrimmage. If you're a team that is not like an Alabama and you're in a different type of team and you want to run up-tempo and you want to, there are things you can do around that. But when you recruit and you develop like they do, they want to run the football. They want to have a quarterback that is mobile, that can extend plays, that has run options, that can run some of the RPO elements and yet be able to, on boots, waggles, and drop back, make some plays in the passing game. You're not going to get, a guy that can run the football like Michael Vick and throw it like Tom Brady. I mean, that combination is just not you just don't have that. I mean, Deshaun Watson was great last year, and ideally he'd fit any system, anytime, anywhere. Jalen Hurts, to me, is a guy that fits what they ideally want to do, and that is have some mobility and be able to run the football. Now, Tua could be a guy, too, that has some ability to extend plays and maybe make plays in the passing game. But I can tell you, and I'll answer this before it's asked, neither quarterback on that, not anybody on that roster at Alabama would have been able to play very well the way they blocked up front. They were handled up front. That was the difference. And when the pressure is in your face before your back foot hits the ground, it's not a quarterback issue at that point. In fact, you're very fortunate that you got a mobile quarterback, because the other option is to have what Georgia had a few weeks ago, where they didn't have a quarterback that could escape and at least buy time and give yourself a couple of chances.
Is this a weakness on the offensive line?
No, I think it's a byproduct. That offensive line shows up pretty well against just about anybody else. I don't think people fully respect how good Auburn is. This Auburn team right now at the line of scrimmage is the best team in the country on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Clemson is close. Alabama, when fully healthy, are good, but no one else is really that close. Auburn is that good, and they've been that good on the line of scrimmage all year long. They haven't been as good in some other areas, but I think sometimes when people just kind of follow the game and don't study the game, this stuff bypasses them. This is a really good Auburn defensive front and a very, very good, I think, functional offensive line. But that defensive front is deep. It's physical. They get good pressure. And, they don't always play like it. And they didn't play like it in the second half against LSU. And that was offensively anyway. Defensively, they shut down LSU. But, to me, I think that is where the storyline is. And it's not a weakness so much of Alabama. I think fully healthy Alabama, it's a different game. And I don't know that the result would have been different, but it certainly would not have been a decisive win for Auburn. I think that Alabama matches up well on the line of scrimmage with just about anybody. They just didn't match up against Auburn this past week. Fully healthy, I think it's a different story, and we're talking about a different game.
We're talking to Chris Landry. It is LandryFootball.com. Right now, they've got a huge deal, the holiday special. It is a big-time discount, limited right now. Save over 67%. You can find it LandryFootball.com. We're talking to Chris Landry, LandryFootball.com report that we do here weekly. Chris, let me go back to, and this is from just questions that I receive that I try to write down,
sure,
and then I'm going to pass them on to you. A lot of Alabama fans are questioning, why didn't those backs get more carries? Because they seem like they had success running the football. Can you help us understand that?
Yeah, it's something that I wondered. I certainly they did have some success. You wonder why at times they didn't stick with it. But I can tell you when you break down the tape, there's adjustments to that. The run and pass really is dictated by the front. And when they had some success running the football, Auburn quickly brought a guy down in the box to basically take that away, which means it gives you an opportunity to make some plays in the passing game if you got time to make them, and they didn't do a very good job of it, quite frankly. They didn't get open enough, quickly enough, relative to the pressure that was in their face. That's the thing that is very difficult. Can you protect well enough, long enough for the routes to progress? And then, if you do that, then you get them moved out, and then you can run the football a little bit more. But it is definitely a cat-and-mouse game. It's a fair point, but the reason why they didn't do it more was because Auburn quickly adjusted. If you play Alabama, you have to take away the run. And if you can't take away the run, I mean, you're done. It's over. I mean, you have no, because they'll run it if they need to 100 times if they got. So clearly, when they had success and they were able to bounce a couple, they really did a good job bringing an extra defender in to make sure that they couldn't continue to do it, and that's when Alabama went more to the pass.
Chris, I want to certainly get into this playoff conversation. Last night, the rankings were released. All is not lost here in Tuscaloosa. I'd love to get your thoughts. Alabama at number 5. What do you see as a pathway to get Alabama in that conversation?
Well, I think it is the unlikelihood of TCU beating Oklahoma. I think that's gonna be the safest way. And the reason I say that is my first thought and viewpoint as I'm watching it unfold is, okay, because you don't know. Their numbers on rankings, and until you hear them describe and get into detail, you don't know. Alabama 5, Ohio State 8. Well, folks, 6 and 7 don't matter because Georgia and Miami are both in play-in games and play-out games. The winner's in, the loser's out. So that puts Alabama 5 and Ohio State at 8. Okay, there's a little bit of a gap there. Okay, it tells me that they think more of Alabama, but how much more? You know, they got them ranked higher now. But remember, nobody has won a conference championship yet because that's this weekend. We know Alabama's not going to win a conference championship. So Ohio State, the only conversation would be is if they win. If Wisconsin wins, they're in. If Ohio State wins, then what does that really mean? Well, when you hear the committee Kirby Holcutt, the committee chair, say that it's razor thin between 5 and 8, very close, well, that tells you right there. It's almost a sign of saying this is really, really close. Well, if it's really that close and that's how you see it, then to me, I don't really like reading the minds of what other people are saying or their words because I don't know how to predict what somebody else might do, but it tells me that they're thinking it's pretty close now. If Ohio State wins the conference championship and beats Wisconsin, that tells me they're sending the signals that we're moving Ohio State up ahead of Alabama. Now, to me, I think Alabama's a better team. Now, right now, this Alabama team's struggling. Now, and I don't know how you look at this, but to me, I think January 1st, getting some of those guys back, there's no doubt in my mind that Alabama's one of the 4 best teams in the country on film that I've seen all year long from week 1 to week, to now. I don't think Ohio State is as deserving of getting in due to the blowout loss to Iowa, the blowout loss to Oklahoma. To me, conference champion, to me, I think that's great and it's important. But if you're picking the 4 best teams, I don't think Ohio State's one of them. Now, but I'm projecting that or wondering out loud, not projecting, that if they're not sending some signals that if Ohio State, quote-unquote, is that close and they win, well, what does that really mean? I think we're going to have one heck of a debate if that happens. Now, if TCU beats Oklahoma, then that opens up a spot, and quite frankly, it opens up a spot potentially for both Ohio State and Alabama. Again, we'll see how that will play out. But I think that of the non-conference champion teams, I think Alabama is kind of standalone. I think the others, obviously are going to be conference champions. And if the winner of the ACC and the SEC champions getting in, if Oklahoma wins, they're in. Wisconsin wins, they're in, and Alabama's out. I think the discussion is just what has to happen for Alabama to get in. And I think the best the best opportunity for them to move in would be an Oklahoma loss. I think that's least likely. I don't think TCU has enough offense. We'll see. I don't think that's the reality. I think Ohio State has a better chance of beating Wisconsin than TCU of Oklahoma. That's my view. It's my opinion. I don't know. But that's what I think, Ryan, would have to happen to be certain to say, yeah, I don't buy people that say, oh, they'll put Alabama in over Ohio State. I don't know what somebody would do. I know what I would do, but what I would do in predicting what some people on a committee would do, I don't have a clue what they're going to do.
All right, Chris, because obviously we respect your football IQ, the way that you understand the game. is it based on Ohio State's potential because there's so much talent in Columbus? I mean, are they saying that because that's a loaded football team? They're loaded with talent, right?
No, Ohio State's very good. They're very, very talented. They have a very good defensive front. Their secondary's kind of grown and gotten a little bit better. They don't have much of a passing game. They haven't been that good. I think Ohio State's going to have to play their best game to beat Wisconsin. I think this Wisconsin team is vulnerable offensively with their turnovers, but they've been a more consistent team than Ohio State all year long. But this Ohio State team, I think, is very vulnerable, and I think that I think the only reason what they would be doing, I think the brand name, just like Alabama's a brand name, Ohio State is, and winning the conference title, that's the only reason why you would put them in.
Chris, let me get into the conversation with Clemson and Miami. Do you see the chance that Miami can beat Clemson?
I think Miami's best game could play Clemson close, and it's possible, yes. But I think Clemson would have to turn the football over, and I think Clemson's best game will beat Miami.
Chris, I want to go back to the selection committee. For someone the way that you evaluate college football, you think current ADs should be on the committee?
No, well, I don't know who you put on the committee. I personally, I don't like it because, look at how many of these guys have got to recuse themselves for these conversations. So it's like when you're going to vote on it, there's as many as 4 or 5 people out of the room. I don't know who you put in it. Personally, I don't know that I like the committee. I don't know who you would put on it. I think having some ex-coaches, but then they're tied to a school in some way, at least from a retirement end. And I mean, you got a guy like Frank Beamer is not in, but certainly he's going to have a viewpoint. Listen, it's very difficult to me. In my mind, you want as many objective football viewpoints, people that understand the game, that can evaluate the game. I'm not big into a lot of the numbers. Numbers are very misleading at times, but I think more of a stronger football acumen across the board would be a better way to do it. I am not a big fan of ADs at all on it. They're not real football people, except in a few rare circumstances, and I don't think they bring a whole lot to the table, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's just hard. I mean, Chris, I've asked this hypothetical question to several guests. It would be like me taking my Tide 1029 T-shirt off and saying, "What's your favorite talk radio station in Alabama?" Right? I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? I'm biased. I mean, I work for this place.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's exactly right. And everybody, to some degree, has a bias. I know. I don't. To me, I really work hard because I do a lot of work for a lot of people in college football and the NFL that I don't really care who wins games. I honestly mean that. I selfishly like everybody to do well, but the reality is, for every winner there's going to be a loser in the game. But I don't really, care. But, there is a lot to that. And I always say this. If you pull for a team, you see half a game. Because you only look at it from the viewpoint of your team. And everybody thinks that other people are biased against their team. And I use this analogy. Use the old political spectrum, the left and the right. Think about this. If you're right down the middle in your thinking, and somebody is a far left thinker, then they're going to think you're a right wing person, and somebody that's a far right guy is going to think you're a left wing person. When the reality is you're right down the middle, and the same thing applies, in football. And I think that if you're objective, then there are going to be people that say you're biased because they're biased, and the way they view it is through the spectrum of what they, and it's fine. People are listening to this show predominantly are Alabama fans. They should see that through the prism of their team. That's why they have a passion for it. They're not going to. People at Alabama don't like Auburn. People at Auburn don't like Alabama. We get that's all true. Objectively speaking, it's harder for people to do that. You're 100% right. I do think. I don't think you should say who has the most talent or who's this. It's who's the most deserving. I fully believe that in some ways we went down the wrong path, that we probably should have stayed with the old bowl system and have everybody play in their bowl games, make better bowl matchups, and then pick 2 or 4 teams after the bowl games. Because what are we really saying right now? Well, Wisconsin hadn't played anybody. I bet Alabama could beat them. I think Ohio State's not good enough. I mean, name me the team that's flawless, because that doesn't exist. So we're putting them up against a standard that's just not there. And so, to me, if you took the bowl games and made them like you do at the beginning of the season when you have these big matchups, put a game at the end of the year where everybody can play in a bowl game, now you truly have a true feel for who the 2 best or the 4 best are. I think we went down the wrong path. We're clearly heading towards 8 at some point, where we're going to take your conference champions, and then we're going to take your at-large teams.
Chris, let me go to this coaching carousel, especially over in Tennessee. Jeff Brom today looks like they're going opposite directions. They thought that he was next. It's sort of like say yes if you've turned down the Tennessee job. Where's this program going?
Well, it's been a bad search. It's been a poor job. I think that the Brom situation, I don't know how serious. From the Brom end, I checked in that they were not close to a deal. I know there's reports out of Tennessee that deal was done and they were ready to do it. That was never the case from the Brom end. I think clearly he was interested in talking. He represents himself, by the way, but I was told there was an offer made, and I was told that there were some discussions of finances and that they couldn't come to an agreement, and perhaps it had to do with his buyout at Purdue. Where does it go? Maybe a Chad Morris, maybe a Kevin Steele. At some point they're going to find somebody to take this job, and who knows how it'll play out, but it's been a rough patch here. There's no doubt. It really started last Friday when they thought they had Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen, with Florida, was trying to get an interview, trying to deal with Scott Frost, and that he backed out on that. And so Florida, not wanting to lose out on Kelly, Frost, and Mullen, jumped on Mullen, who clearly wanted the Florida job over the Tennessee job. So it left Tennessee kind of going into a different direction. And Curry and Jim Haslam, the big Vol Booster Browns owner, had a connection with Sciano, and we all know how that blew up, and it's taken us to where this path is taking us right now.
Chris, I'm going to say this, and you may throw darts at me for saying this, but is Lane Kiffin, I had respect for him when he was locked in as a play caller. Okay, some of the off-the-field attention to detail, maybe not so much. But should Tennessee call Lane Kiffin?
I wouldn't. I think the thing is it's more than just play calling. I think the fact that his teams have been largely undisciplined, unfocused, and there's no question he's a good play caller. But outside of that, I worry about the stability of a program. I know he inherited a situation at USC that wasn't ideal. So I'm not talking about the overall program, but he was consistently outcoached at USC, and so it's more than just play calling, and it's more than just recruiting, and I don't think he's the answer. He is certainly, I think Tennessee's certainly the fan base feels a feeling of desperation, but you're going to go through the Greg Schiano fiasco, and now you're going to go and hire Lane Kiffin, which some people may like as Tennessee fans, but just as many of them are going to say, are you kidding me? We're going to go through what we did at Schiano. Now, if you're the Tennessee brass and they just got shot down in social media, imagine you're probably going to have as many people feel the same way about Kiffin. So I don't see them going down that path, and there's a good reason why, and I do think you'll end up with a bigger job at some point. In all of my coaching search work, his name doesn't come up at all at any of these jobs. So I think there's a reason for that. I think he's got to show that he's matured and he's capable of handling the other aspects of a football program other than play call.
Well, judging his Twitter, I don't know if you could say that he has.
No. Yeah. He
needs to log off Twitter, like get away from it.
Yeah, and I can live with that if it wasn't reflective in his lack of discipline coaching, because that could just be. Steve Spurrier had a sarcastic way about dealing with things. Now, he didn't live in the social media world, but he'd say things that were very, very sarcastic, and he would take a lot of shots at people. But his teams were disciplined, And so that was kind of funny and cute. It's not funny and cute when your teams are undisciplined.
Chris Landry, going to be a lot of drama around college football playoffs. I can't wait to discuss it next week with you because it'll be setting up a huge college football playoffs, even though the Crimson Tide may or may not be involved.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see how the games this weekend determine it, because I think we'll have a pretty good idea going in, but we'll definitely know, and look forward to breaking it down with you.